Roger Jensen,
Present. Yep.
Stephen Graham. Let the record reflect that Stephen is not in attendance. Brian Chegas,
Present.
Brad McPherson. Let the record reflect that Brad McPherson is not in attendance. And Kim Doe.
Present.
All right, thanks. See, in your packet, item 2, minutes from the May 10th meeting. Does anyone have any comments or motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, minutes, May minutes approved. Item 3, report from city urban designer. Ms. Claudia. Oh, now we got Gregory's present. We'll let the record show them. Yep.
Good morning, everyone. Claudia Babin, a city urban designer in the planning division. I have a couple updates for you. One of them is a case that was brought to you, I believe in April. It moved forward, and on May 30th of this year, a couple of ordinance and a resolution that relate to this project were approved by the City Commission. This included boundary changes in the Rosarian Academy project, also a rezoning for the same project, and a major amendment for this plan development. So that moved forward. The other update that I have for you is for the project Face of the City of Shea Street and Trinity Place. This was also brought to you, I believe, in April, and it moved forward and got approved by City Commission on May 15. This is improvements that will be made to Shea Street and Trinity Place between South Flagler and Okeechobee Boulevard. Engineering staff is finalizing these documents, and CRA staff is working for procurement and bidding the project. This is a city project. And that is all for updates. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on down to ex parte communication. Does anyone have any ex parte to declare on today's cases?
I've had a meeting with the owner and the architect on this project a couple months back. I request that these disclosures and all written communication be made part of the record. That meeting will have no impact on my decision-making today.
Okay, anyone else?
Yes, I also had the prior meeting, pre-meeting discussion with the owner and the architect team on the one of the items today. It would not impact my decision today.
Good. All right, anyone else? No?
Mr. Chair, I have one. As to matter formal site plan review, case number 22-22, I did have a meeting with the ownership group. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be part of the record, and that meeting will have no impact on my ability to vote on this case today.
Okay, thanks. Oh, you go into.
Yes, I also met with the developer team and got an overview of the project, but it will not impair my decision to be objective today.
All right. Greg?
None.
None? Okay. Oh, Brad.
No ex parte communications, but I'll have to recuse myself from this matter because the firm representing is also a firm I'm affiliated with.
All right, and then we'll let the record show Brad McPherson is now present, along with Greg. Okay, I think that's it. All right, we got it all covered. So we'll move in today's cases. Anyone that will be presenting testimony, et cetera, can be standing sworn in.
Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Great, thanks. And then when you do speak, just make sure you come up to the microphone and state your name and address clearly. And if anyone in the audience wants to comment on any cases today, there's cards outside. You just fill out your name and pass it up here, and we'll make sure that you're heard. Okay. So with all that being said, let's move into today's first case, number 1, formal site plan review, case number 22-22. Request by John K. Rice of Gunster on behalf of Samar WP LLP for special review. And go ahead and hear the applicant's presentation, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alan Mindell, 89 Meadowwoods Road, Great Neck, New York, 11020. I am a managing member of Samar WP, the applicant today, and it is our honor and privilege to be presenting to you. We had our public meeting earlier this year on February 1st with the West Palm Beach Downtown Neighborhood Association. It was held at BRK Republic. We had over 130 members of the public there. I think some of you may have been there as well. And we were very happy and warmed by the reception we got. We've had the honor and privilege to see some of you beforehand. Today's presentation will be led by the firm of Gunster, and Jack Rice will be leading it. He is accompanied by John Lindgren, who's the planner. Our architectural firm is here as well, led by Norberto Liano, the principal of the firm, and Danielle Madrid, project manager. We also have our civil engineers, which are led by Simmons and White, Brian Kelly, senior traffic engineer, Eric Cooper, project manager, Justin Scholl, project engineer, and we also have our landscape architect here, the firm of Insight, Rubson Gumaras, project manager. All of us will be available for questions at the end of the presentation, and we hope that we meet with your favor. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mendel. I've been doing this for a little while, and it's not often that the client themselves actually want to be present at the public hearing, and I think it is a representation of your commitment to the city in this project. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Jack Rice, and I am an attorney at Gunster, and my address is 777 South Flagler Drive in West Palm Beach. So Mr. Mendel just basically went over the community outreach that has happened previously, which has brought us to present, which is our proposal. To give you kind of an overview of the existing site and the property is made up of 3 parcels, 617, 613, and 609 Avernia Street. It totals just under half an acre, with the historic Hotel Avernia at the easternmost corner. The property overall is located between Avernia Street to the south. To the north, we have an alley as well as DeTora Street. Further, we have a vacant warehouse. To the east, we have Rosemary. There's also a vacant commercial structure just east of the Hotel Avernia. I think it's the original Hibiscus House, as well as Sapodilla to the west, which is, and as well as Avernia Place, which is a 7 or 8 floor retirement home. Here we have some views of the property from Avernia Street. You can see the Hotel Avernia's frontage, as well as the vacant property to the west of it. This property is in the QBD, and the intent of the QBD is to have the highest heights as well as FAR in downtown so that it can connect both Clematis as well as the square. And as you can see at present, there's not a lot going on here, and we're excited to bring more to the site as well as to just further connect the urban environment. To give a brief overview of the project overall, it's 79,786 square feet. About 56% of that is from TDRs. You approved the TDR transfer in September of last year. They come from the Seaboard Station. The height is 133 feet and 5 inches, or about 13% lower than the allowed height. It is obviously a boutique hotel, which integrates the Hotel Avernia. It has 134 guest rooms, 96 are new, and just, I think, 38 are from the old hotel, as well as incorporates a series of rooftop gardens, a very large courtyard that has provided a significant amount of open space. There is a hotel cafe, as well as a lounge. A spa and salon are housed in the historic Hotel Avernia structure. Some public art is provided along the sidewalk at the front, and there is a parking garage on the property. You're going to hear a lot about both biophilic design and feng shui today. The project does attempts to incorporate both these design theories. Some of them are going to be more kind of expressed within the interiors of the property itself. But as we go through it, you'll see the attempts to incorporate them and kind of pull the outside in with regards to biophilic design, as well as with feng shui to incorporate metal, wood, earth, wind, and fire to facilitate energy and just kind of create a feeling amongst the hotel's guests. To provide a brief overview of the site plan, you can see we have preserved a significant portion of the Hotel Avernia, and that is to reduce massing along the street, as well as to integrate it into the larger development. Along the street, we are utilizing 3 on-street spaces that will still be available to the public. Between the actual street itself and the hotel lobby, we have both public art, as well as a series of gardens and landscaping, and a patio. At the western end of the property, we have some, I'm sorry, I can't really move the mouse here. We have some parking, bicycle parking. And then as you enter the property, you'll see there's 10 parking spaces set aside for individuals and guests that are checking in. As they check in, they will enter the property. You can see there's a water structure here. They'll enter into the lobby. There's also an entrance at the actual street level from the historic Hotel Avernia. And beyond the lobby, there is a small bar and hotel cafe, as well as a courtyard. The open courtyard is pretty significant. Due to this area, as well as the gardens, we have over 50% open space on site. And at the rear, we have a large dedicated loading space that's beyond what's required. I think with that, I'm going to hand it over to the project architect.
Good morning. My name is Norberto Loiano with Slary Architects. The address is 2060 Northwest Boca Raton Boulevard. Well, the concept vision of the project's architecture is product of several forces. The Viana brand, the existing historic hotel, the context, adjacent buildings, built environment, the sloping site, South Florida influence, and Feng Shui elements. The proposed design is contemporary with Deco influence. The building comprises a strong tripartite composition. The base responds to street, pedestrian scale, existing hotel. The middle responds to other adjacent structures, and the top articulates the skyline and reduces building scale while providing a true urban rooftop garden. The facade articulation is accomplished with variety of materials: paint stucco, regional stone, glass, metal railings, wood cladding, as well as subtle detailing from Viana brand and existing hotel, all done in a South Florida pastel color palette, blues, whites, and off-whites. The building massing is accomplished with all required upper level setbacks, planar breaks, and softened corner balconies. An inviting open space courtyard on the east provides light and air space to the building and to adjacent lower scale structures to the east. Glazing and fenestrations are composed to avoid solid wall sections, and the few that exist have variety of colors, textures, green walls, and/or decorative artwork. The prominent design element is the introduction of the interim mechanical penthouse, which removes all building's equipment from roof and therefore allowed us to create a true user-friendly rooftop urban garden overlooking pool deck, resulting in an appealing view from adjacent taller buildings. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's see. We're going to do staff.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rubson Guimarães, and I represent Insight Studio. We are the landscape architects on this project. We are at 3601 PGA Boulevard, Suite 220, Palm Beach Gardens. Our job was to create a beautiful and biophilic design that addresses all regulatory requirements, as well as enhances the historic qualities of the site and the architecture, highlights the pedestrian environment, and provides a unique experience in and out of the project site. The streetscape here shows high-rise oak trees to maintain unity with the downtown West Palm Beach palette, as well as to scale down the building and provide a pedestrian-friendly street side with plenty of opportunity for greenery and shade. The perimeter plantings and landscape material throughout the ground level address the required buffering along the boundaries of the project site, as well as softens the hardscape and work with the architecture to create lush and reinvigorating space. The green spaces provided in the gardens on the ground level and the rooftops work in unison with the material palette and the spatial design to create a vibrant exterior space that pulls in the surrounding nature into the interior, accentuating and encouraging the intersection between the pedestrian experience and the elements of the natural environment. Insight Studio has also worked to provide Florida-friendly design principles throughout this project, emphasizing elements such as maximizing green space and permeable area, and providing native and drought-tolerant plant selection. The focus on this project really was to create an exterior experience that, through the use of biophilic design principles, pulls the nature into the interior space and provides a rejuvenating and lush ambiance throughout all levels of this project, from the pedestrian-friendly streetscape to the tropical courtyard garden, through the interior of the hotel and all the way up into the rooftop gardens to complement and soften the West Palm Beach skyline and downtown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Brian Kelly. I'm a senior traffic engineer with the firm Simmons & White, located here in West Palm Beach. I'm going to be fairly brief with you today. Over the last 10 years or so, I've probably worked on 24 or more projects in the city of West Palm Beach, and this is really one of the lesser of the traffic impact projects that I've been a part of. As been mentioned, access is going to be based off of Vernier Street, so all motorists will be coming in from Avernia. There is a drop-off location located right inside once you turn into the site. This will be for people dropping off their luggage, checking in. Once they do that, they will make a right turn onto the alley that we will be repaving as part of this project, and then they will turn into our parking garage for their parking. And this is really done to minimize the impact to Avernia Street, as it's important to the city, as everybody knows, to increase the walkability of the city. So we're trying to minimize that impact to Avernia Street as far as the amount of vehicles that access and utilize that driveway location. We did prepare a detailed traffic study that's been submitted to both the City of West Palm Beach, your expert traffic engineering staff, and both Palm Beach County Traffic Engineering Division, and they have fully vetted that, and we've received approval from both jurisdictions. So from that, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Eric Cooper, who is the civil project manager with my firm.
Hold on, Mr. Kelly. Mr. Chair, can I
Oh, wait,
ask a
go
quick-
ahead, yeah. Go ahead.
Mr. Kelly, the alley, it's public, and you're going to have to make it one way to make that connection from under the building to get around to the parking. Is there do they have to change the direction of the alley, or does it have to be controlled at either end to manage for this specific project?
So excellent question. That's something we've had kind of detailed coordination with the city on. And the city traffic engineer, they have the ability, they're the ones that designate the directionality of the alley, and they have determined they are going to directionalize, make this one way. It's going to be one way eastbound, and as part of our project, we will add the signage based on their designation to make sure that there is proper signage locations throughout the alley.
And that's not going to have any impact on the folks like Hibiscus House, the folks to the east of you, right? Because I'm assuming the alley is just general direction right now.
Right,
You
it's
guys are
going to be
take
very minimal
Got
impact,
it.
and frankly, it's going to make it safer.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Eric Cooper with Simmons & White Engineers at 2581 Metro Center Boulevard, Suite 3. I've worked in the city for over 25 years. The on-site stormwater runoff will be collected in a exfiltration trench system for the 25-year one-day rain event. Project meets the South Florida Water Management District and the City of West Palm Beach stormwater system standards. The exfiltration trench will also mitigate any additional runoff from the project, and we'll have a stormwater pollution prevention plan in place during construction.
Okay, thank you.
For the record, Jack Rice again. To briefly go through the standards for special review, the first is the relationship of the building to the site's surroundings, which is largely what you've heard from the design professionals today. Obviously, the building is centrally located. It's preserved a significant amount of open space at the ground level and to the east. All circulation is internal. We've kept the height lower than than the maximum permitted, about 10%. The units of the actual hotel, they're facing Ivernia Street, begin at a higher elevation. And the stepped back upper floors are respecting the adjacent side yards and privacy, as well as the frontage along Ivernia Street and that feel of kind of a pedestrian urban environment. There's also landscaping buffers along the east and the west to reduce noise and light pollution to neighbors. And obviously the highlight of the project is the incorporation and preservation of the Hotel Ivernia structure. As far as circulation and traffic flow, pedestrian circulation is accommodated from street level at 2 access points. One is the original Hotel Ivernia entrance, and there's an additional access that's been provided at the lobby level of the Viana, and this provides a seamless entrance as well as an ADA accessible entrance. When we look at traffic flow, it's extremely limited in order to protect that pedestrian realm with only one curb cut along Ivernia Street to preserve the frontage and really to just avoid pedestrian and vehicle conflicts. And the remainder of the traffic and egress will occur from drives at the rear along the alley, again, to avoid any conflicts. There are both on-street bicycle parking as well as bicycle parking lockers within the garage itself. As far as the building's design, it's a combination of Art Deco elements of the Ivernia as well as the modern style of the Viana. You've heard a lot about the stepped back massing and the elements of biophilic and feng shui design. Again, there's significant amounts of open space, 56% when only 25% was required. There's also design elements that incorporate a green wall, as well as substantial amounts of landscaping and water features both inside and out. When we look to the public realm, once again, we have that stepped back massing protecting kind of the look and feel along Ivernia Street, and as well as enhancements in both terms of landscape and design. In terms of additional street trees and the replacement of certain landscape grades that are on the property, there's public art along Ivernia Street. We've integrated the elements of the Hotel Ivernia, including its signage, which will be protected, and improvements to the right-of-way along Ivernia Street as well as the rear alley. And with that, we'll take any questions.
Oops, great, thanks. Nice presentation. Does anyone have any immediate questions for the applicant? We can come back later. Before we move into staff, let's go ahead and hear the staff's review. Thank you. Yeah, and Claudia, can you just go ahead and, when you make your presentation, just remind us, I know we heard this before at one point in time, what the nature of that review was? I mean, we've seen this project before. I just don't remember the nature of the review.
I'm sure it was a transfer of development rights.
It was just, okay. But
Yeah,
it was,
I'll
okay.
point that out too,
Okay.
the reason why you saw that.
It's like deja vu.
I have yeah. The screen seems to be okay now. Claudio Aben, City Urban Designer from the Planning Division. I will be presenting to you the staff report. Also, I'm going to be skipping some information that the applicant already presented. Just to note that this project is located within the Quadro Business District, and the applicant actually mentioned the intent of the district, which is to be one of the districts that includes main office core. It is intended to host the office core of the downtown. It is also a link to the two main retail centers, which is City Place in the south and Clematis Streets to the north, and includes the greatest capacity for commercial development and building heights in the downtown. I also want to point out that per our incentive program regulations, because the applicant is integrating the historic structure, they are allowed to qualify for the transfer of development rights. which is why which is why this project was seen by you before. The development rights increases because now they are able to be in the incentive building requirements that are from the Quadro Business District 8 to 12. And I'm showing here a table that actually shows a comparison between the base zoning and the actual incentive zoning, which again goes from 8 stories or 125 feet on height to 12 stories and 152 on height, and also for a floor area ratio from 1.75 to 4. As you can see here, the lot size is almost 2,000 square feet, and allowed by right, they are able to go up to 79,900. They are proposing a little bit lower than that, and they needed to purchase TDRs to actually go to that amount they needed, which is why in August of last year, the TDR case number 2211 came to you to make that transfer of development rights. And just to point out, the map that I have here, it is the map that shows the sending and receiving sites for the TDRs. So the request is really a special approval of the special review. Any proposed development that is seeking to utilize an incentive program is subject to a special review and also will be evaluated with the 4 special review standards. And I'm going to go briefly through them. Again, just giving some information that the applicant already presented to you. Relationship of buildings to the site and surroundings. They're proposing a 12-story hotel building and is meeting all the regulations of the code. We know that we have low-scale structures around the building, but the base zoning for those sites is also to go up as high as 8 to 10 stories. So new development coming in will be at the same scale as the proposed development. Another thing to point out that the applicant also mentioned is the art location. Per code, they are required to either have art in their development or contribute to the art fund, and they chose to integrate it to their proposal. It is adjacent to the sidewalk. It is accessible for public to see it, and it will be moving forward with our coordinator into the process. In terms of circulation and traffic flow, the applicant already mentioned how this was going to function. The only 2 things that I can bring to you is that they are coordinating with the city's traffic engineering division because of some of the improvements that they will be doing to the alley, so that way they can make it one street, which signage was the one that was included. Also, the applicant has agreed to provide a transportation demand management plan, and that will be reviewed and approved by the traffic engineer division. As of right now, we don't have much details of that. In terms of building design, the applicant also mentioned the design of the facades and the use of materials. In terms of how they are integrating the historic buildings, they mentioned that they are using geometric elements from the facade of the historic building and bringing it up to the front facade of their building. They have met with the historic team last year, maybe in August, around that time. And the historic team was okay with the way that they were integrating the project. The one thing that they mentioned to the applicant was that the use of the aluminum pipe screening the mechanical floors was not that cohesive with the overall design of the project. In terms of public realm, again, the applicant already mentioned what they are proposing. They are required to provide 25% of the site as private open space, and the applicant is actually proposing 56% of open space, which is double the amount that they are required to do. And again, they also mentioned that the improvements that they will be making the streetscape, which is new shade trees and landscaping areas along with the art. and bicycle racks, and yeah, sorry, that's it. In terms of interdepartmental review, all projects are required to go through this process. Some of them are required to provide certain letters from other agencies, just like the school concurrency and the Federal Aviation Administration determination letter. This in your staff report mentioned that the applicant was going to submit this letter. It was already in process. They already submitted the request. We were just waiting for it, and we actually received them yesterday. So this is just an update. And a public notice. A notification for this meeting was sent to all property owners within the 500 feet of radius of the project. The applicant also mentioned that this was presented to the Downtown Neighborhood Association. And we did receive a letter from a resident, James Murphy, that the secretary has in place. And I'm also going to provide you with some copies of it, just because they have some graphics so you can follow along what the letter says. Let me just do that. Do you want one? I'll give you one. Our recommendation is regarding the special review by the Downtown Action Committee. Staff recommends approval based on the findings that this petition meets the standards as indicated as Section 9452B2 of the Zoning and Land Development Regulations. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Thank you.
I apologize. I thought you were going to present the letter. We're just,
Oh, we can read it on the record if you would need to.
okay. Did everybody get this and has read it?
Yes.
Okay. Does staff have any response to this, or?
We don't have any response to it. We know that the scale of the project meets all the requirements for the code.
Okay. Okay, we'll talk about this in a bit.
Of course.
So that concludes staff's presentation?
Yes.
Okay, we heard from the applicant. Perfect, thank you. Anybody in the public want to comment on this project? All right, seeing no public discussion, we'll close the public discussion and we'll go ahead and have discussion amongst the board. Any questions for the applicant or staff? But nice thorough presentation, thanks. Kim?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two questions. One is above the ground and one is about below the ground. So the above the ground, in the pre-meeting discussion with the architect team, I know we talked about the wall between the old building and the new building. There's a tall wall going up that you originally had wanted to place public arts, and Art Life prefers the sculpture on the ground to be more accessible to pedestrians. So then now that wall does not have artwork anymore. So I think I'll leave that the artwork to be discussed between the team and Art Life Committee. But if there's no new artworks going up there, I think that we probably need to increase some kind of facade articulation or add a visual interest to that wall. Yes, where that flower.
To offer a response, the city's art director didn't feel that the public art going up the wall actually qualified for the city's requirements. We would still like to incorporate it, but we're having conversations about that. And I would note that just below that area is the green wall to be proposed to add to that articulation. So that's why it's left off the other slides, but it's still something we are desirous of seeing.
And on the other wall, I didn't see it before, but the wall right immediately adjacent to where the flowers are that face east, on another rendering that the 3D rendering show another wall facing east. It's pretty sizable surface without any visual interest, so maybe the team can consider adding. Yes, right here, this wall facing east, the wall between the two tall blocks there,
The vertical stucco wall?
yeah, it's a vertical wall, exactly that one. It's a pretty sizable surface without much visual interest right now, so perhaps the team could consider adding a little bit more facade articulation or.
Yeah, I had the same comment, Kim, as well. Maybe some windows or something. Yeah.
There are some windows in that area, and there is an actual articulation. We just can't see it with the from the angle. Let me see if I can get. This one? Yeah, there's a bigger version. Stop. Down more. One more. There you go.
Yeah, I think Ms. Kim was referring to the wall about a third in from the east. That's the blank stucco wall.
So you can see there is some articulation of it and some extension of the balconies, and I think it would be further augmented by the public art that we'd like to be putting
Right
on.
there.
But that we're still in conversations with the city about.
There'll be some design to that.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any other areas?
May I talk about the other comment, the stormwater management?
Sure, please.
So previously, the civil engineer mentioned that it met the stormwater management criteria of 25-year, one-day rain event. Is that the current code right now, 25-year?
The project meets all the standards of the South Florida Water Management District in the city.
Yeah, what am I trying to ask? Because I just did another project myself for my own project, and it's just a small subdivision, but their requirement, the standard is a 100-year event. And sometimes they had encountered even a 100-year event like twice within 4 years. So, with all the flooding occurring so much more frequently, we've just seen recently I'm not trying to change the code here in this meeting. I'm just saying, whether the standard is 25 years now, maybe, for another future, we should consider a higher standard very soon, because we recent flooding in Fort Lauderdale. The Fort Lauderdale International Airport was shut down for 40 hours, and I went through the governor's hurricane recovery program, and they said people had sewage inside the homes. So, the 25-year standard might be, might need to change very soon.
We're above the 100-year flood elevation also.
Okay. Okay, and that's been vetted with the engineering department?
Well, we have to submit for permits through your stormwater management engineer and the city engineering department, and also the South Florida Water Management District.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, and please, build in as much reserve capacity as you possibly can, because I think with all the climate changes and all the new buildings, we're replacing pervious surfaces with impervious, and a combination of all these factors, and none of us want to see flooding in downtown West Palm or anywhere in West Palm.
Well, there'll be no additional runoff from the site. So any additional runoff created by the project will be captured in the exfiltration trench system, and that puts the water back into the ground, into the soil.
Yeah. Thank you.
Who's that next? You got some? Is that it, Kim?
Yes, thank you.
Just a brief comment. I commend you because it's a challenging site. You're on a hillside. You got, elevation change. It's refreshing because I can't remember the last time a project came through where we weren't discussing screening of garages. You guys flipped the script and put it under the ground, so that's great. It's great for your neighbors. It's going to be intense, but that's the change in West Palm Beach. Redevelopment's coming, and TDRs are coming back downtown, and this is one of those transition zones. So, commend you for holding on to the old Lavernia Hotel facade and kind of, integrating it into the project. Architecturally, I know Roger's going to have comments for you. I think you did a good job, and I look forward to you guys' success in that location.
Okay, cool. Who's got comments? Greg, you got anything?
Yes, quick comment. As mentioned, I think this is a nice project. The site really do look challenging, but my comment, I think, is I would like to see more integration of the existing hotel to the new hotel, sort of like complementing it more. I know that could be very challenging, but it seemed not well integrated. I see where you're trying to take element from the existing hotel and place it on the facade, but I think maybe Roger probably will be best articulate that than me, but that's really my overall comment about better integration of the existing hotel to basically complement it. It could be in the art. I don't know the relationship with the public art with the existing hotel, if it's random or if there's a relationship to tie them with the art. Sort of like telling a story of that, the existing hotel and the new one. So kind of merge the two together and giving more meaning to the new hotel as a ground for the city. That's my comment.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense. Thanks. Okay. Michael.
Yeah, just some general comments. Overall, I think the project is going to add a lot of value to the public realm. There's always been this gap between the square and Clematis Street that this will fill in and activate. So I really look forward to that. And I think it's appropriate that you're going to, integrate the historic hotel into the project as you kind of transition from our historic district to the square, which is almost all new, except maybe the Harriet Himmel Theater. I think the traffic circulation is very thoughtful, respectful to, walkability in this area. I really like the rooftop garden and I think the developer went above and beyond as far as integrating or, incorporating all the mechanicals off into this, separate floor. So that will be a really nice area for events. I guess one question. I know there said there was a bike storage room and there's some bike racks on site. And I know typically code requires, I believe it's one parking space for every 8, or one bike parking space for every 8 vehicular spaces for a apartment building. I don't know what the code requires for hotel. How big is the bike storage? How many bike racks are on site? I'm just curious. Typically, the developers do the minimums, but just kind of want to get a feel for that.
We are beyond the bicycle minimums, I believe, and so there are bicycle racks along Lavernia Street right here. And then as far as in terms of within the parking garage itself, there is a bicycle storage locker that holds, I believe, 4 bicycles.
Okay.
I don't know the capacity of the on-street racks.
Yeah, if I may, the requirement is 4 bike racks, and we have 4 bike racks as storage. On the street, the requirement is 1.5, and we were generous and provide 2.
Okay. I know a couple of the other hotels, I believe both the Canopy and the Ben have their own, I don't want to say bike share programs, but they provide bicycles to the hotel guests. So I don't know if maybe that'll be considered as a supplement to that bike storage room. Okay. It does seem a little light on bike storage, and, we're really trying to see how we can get cars off the street, and, it's obviously a central location where I think people will take advantage of bicycles if provided, and I know we still maybe need to shore up our bicycle requirements for multifamily.
Sir, if you're going to speak, someone needs to come up and use the microphone. You can't respond from there.
So, Mr. Mendel,
Whoever wants to respond.
We're open to considering a bicycle option, and also to give a little bit more additional details on the transportation options that we've been discussing with the city. Is we've already provided the city with a proposal that involves offering reduced bright line tickets for both staff as well as guests. So we're also exploring other modes of transportation beyond just bicycles and cars.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, I just try to keep. It's usually just developers do the bare minimum. So whatever we can do to try to get more vehicles off the street. But overall, I think it's a great project, and will add a lot to the public realm and activate that gap between Clematis and the square.
We'll pledge whatever we can fit on the site plan itself, which we can at least double that capacity, and potentially more we will add.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And also, I would like to add that in the parking garage, we have like 4 spots for motorcycles that can be dedicated to bicycles too.
Okay, good. All right. Thanks, Stephen. Nick? Yeah.
Well, thank you for your comprehensive presentation and bringing your whole team here. It's great to have all the professionals to answer these detailed questions. And I think I just have 3 questions and comments to run through. One is the street on Avernia itself, and what I think is a raised curb between the public parking and the sidewalk. And I wonder if that's a requirement, or with the whole universal design lately on Clematis and elsewhere, where you just have a flush condition and ease of walk from the parking space to the sidewalk, if that may be an option to consider here. Or basically, why is there a raised curb in this area?
Are you talking about along the sidewalk itself?
Yeah, like right there where your cursor is, if somebody stops and gets out of their vehicle, they need to step up onto a curb, and the whole redesign of Clematis and Banyan, and I think basically the latest trends in the industry is to not have any kind of barrier or step that somebody could trip on or have to walk up or climb over.
I would tell you that that is the existing condition, and the city recently replaced it. But we would be open to that. So I would say we would take the city's advice, just like most of the aspects of some of these design elements come from the direction we've been given.
Yeah, I think that would just take this, up from the kind of suburban standard of a raised curb to the elite urban design of the city of West Palm Beach, where there is no barrier for a elderly person to trip over or the effort to get up. It's just all one level.
We'll follow staff's recommendation and ask them if they could accommodate the request.
Thank you. Just to continue on the street, I see the rhythm of the oak trees and understand that from the landscape design perspective. It just seems like on the area where you enter the structure, there's a large landscape island that may be suited for an oak tree to better grow than, a couple feet off of the sidewalk. Wondering if that might be an option there, or at the very least the one on the west, to center it in the middle of that planter so the tree has equal roots on both sides and not, so close to the edge of the hardscape.
To the west, sir?
Yeah, so the
I think there's a
vehicular
fire
entry
hydrant
there, the
conflict.
one tree that's just to the west of that.
Go ahead.
Brian Kelly again. That was something that was considered, but for site visibility, we left it out of there so that motorists could see pedestrians and everything else. So that's why we try to limit the landscaping right there, right at the driveway location, for site visibility for motorists and pedestrians.
So the tree on the west can just slide over to the west slightly to be equidistant in that planter or in the center of that planter?
I think they have a distance separation requirement.
The distance between those
Distance,
two
yeah.
oak trees was actually determined with some back and forth with the city, basically, like Brian said, just to make sure that we don't have any visibility issues. So that's why originally they were all equidistant, but because we were concerned for the visibility of people driving in and out of the garage. So.
Okay. If that's a safe site issue, that's a very important safety issue. Comment number 2 is the expression of the, I guess, bamboo feng shui screening elements, and that just sort of jumped out at me as a design element where I think the rest of the architectural expression from the old facade to the different elements I think are sort of all in concert, and that just seems out of place to me, and I wonder if there's a different expression of that material that may suit the vernacular or the design motif of the architecture in a more comprehensive fashion. And again, maybe Roger, you may be able to articulate that a little bit more architecturally. That's just a comment that jumped out at me. And the third issue, or the third comment, is just what does the original hotel facade look like? I think today it's vibrantly painted. In some of the renderings, it looks like sort of whitewashed. What is it going to be?
I was about to speak to that. So we have a slide to that, and what you're staring at is the Florida Archives view of the original hotel. And that does not have an exact date pinned on it with the state, but it's from the Department of State and the Archives, and they've dated it as circa 1970. And the only one before that is almost not viewable on the screen, but it shows the same, and there's no, obviously, it's a very uniform facade, doesn't have a lot of changing colors and stuff like that. But it's pretty much a uniform building with some striping on it. And when I say striping, I'm just talking about, I am not an architect, these areas right here.
Mm-hmm. Great, and then my last comment is just a commendation on the whole rooftop design. That's just such a nice design expression to utilize that space and locate the mechanical equipment. I don't think we've seen that before, but that's just a really a nice move, and I think not only for the residents and the guests of the facility, but elsewhere and looking down and views. So kudos to you on that one. Thank you.
Thank you. There's been a lot of attempts made to move the mechanical into this floor below it, and that's why we see that screening right there.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Yeah, I think in general, the direction of the project is very good. Most of my comments are probably going to be the same from the last review we had relative to the architecture, which would be, items A and C for the special review, the relationship of the building to the surroundings and the building design. But I think in terms of the public realm, traffic flow, circulation, the massing, I think you're getting your extra massing and FAR per your historic components, which is great to save a portion of that building. I think that's really fantastic. But if you could, I'll just leave my architectural comments. If you could pull up some of the perspective views, maybe starting with R3. And this is going to just probably just follow up on the comments from Greg about the integration of the base of the building and the relationship to the historic structure, and then the whole top section, which everybody's commented on relatively in a similar fashion, especially hearing historic preservation's comments as well. I mean, I think the midsection is pretty decent. But I think the whole bottom portion doesn't have any relationship to the historic structure or the building itself. It's almost like it's an anomaly to the rest of the design, the material, the alignments of the pedestrian entry, the curved element. I just think they're all kind of inconsistent with the rest of the midsection, the body of the building. And I almost think you need to need a whole nother stab at redesigning an option for that whole street level entrance. Again, just look at the rhythm and the consistency of the historic hotel in the horizontal portion, and then vertically look at the structure that's established by the grid of the building itself. And I just think we need to see something different and have a better integration and, again, relationship to that sidewalk experience. And then the components on the top, it does seem a little top heavy, and I think the element of the vertical piping is all inconsistent, again, with the overall design. And then on top of that, the glass railing. This here, I'm not sure what the dimension is. Your elevation show that at 6 feet, the glass railing, is that correct?
I can go to them, sir.
So I think there's just this series of massing components and inconsistencies of material that really exacerbate that situation. But in particular, again, back to this drawing, the more specific things would be that the big heavy cantilever on the west side, the southwest corner, I think, again, is top-heavy, and it adds to that whole element of that entire roof section being too heavy in terms of massing. And again, it kind of projects out on the southeast corner as well. Yeah, there it is. Well, there's another elevation. I think you have 6 feet of railing. It's just the height of that glass seems very, I don't know if it's, how tall is the railing itself? Is it 6 feet? Is that a code requirement or?
Code requirement.
It's a code requirement.
To be 6 feet high?
I don't think it'll be that high.
Okay, well, I think that, again, that whole top section probably needs to be restudied in terms of the design and the massing. And some of these cantilevers over the corners and the west side, it just adds to the heavy nature of the top of the building that doesn't seem to be consistent with the building or the surrounding components. And then, if you can scroll to, go back to sheet R3, I think it is, and I'll just, again, point out those particular components.
I don't have them labeled in terms of sheets, I just have elevation.
Oh, it's a perspective view from the south, it's almost a straight-on south view perspective. Or just, you can just go to the perspective views. Yeah, that whole series right there, you can start with that one. So yeah, again, it's the upper left corner, and that curved balcony just seems to be an anomaly as well up on the top level. We talked about the midsection, the upper, and just again, the projection of the upper right balconies. I think you need a little more alignment with the massing of the rooftop relative to the structure below. And then on the, no, my sheet R3 has a, go down to the next perspective. Let me see, no, that one, the next one down. And maybe the next one, go one more down. Yeah, and then that whole building mass on the top, what would be the northeast corner, again, it just doesn't have any relationship to the building below. It's kind of this glass element kind of just plopped on top. So I think you guys could look at, again, the alignments and the relationships of the mass and the articulation of that relative to the lower structure. But those are, I think, in general, like I said, I think it's in good direction, good project. These are probably the exact same comments I said last time, and kind of you came back with the exact same facade on the entry portion. So I think you really need to restudy that whole entry component. I told you last time, I'm not a fan of that big curvilinear element. I think it's completely inconsistent with anything going on with the building itself or the neighborhood. But yeah, so I would be in favor of allowing us to see some options on those components. But again, in terms of the special review, the rest of it, I don't think there's any variances, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, which is great. So thanks for that.
I think it was mentioned by the staff that I'm not speaking as an architect, but part of the struggle of this site is there is a pretty significant grade change.
Yep.
And so that's why you're seeing some of these elements along the street, and I think it's about 11 feet. So trying to find a way to kind of balance those out.
Oh yeah, no, I understand that for sure. But yeah, no, it's just my comments on the architecture is just mine. I think you just probably need to take another go at the top and the bottom, and I think it's a good project. I mean, I'd be in favor of, if someone wanted to craft something, I don't know if we want to defer it and see it next month with the design options and look at it as a whole, but it's just my opinion, or you could approve it with a condition to rework and restudy the entry portion on the back and have that come back to us, or?
I mean,
I don't know if, did the Historic Preservation Review talk about the base portion at all, or were they focused mainly on the rooftop component?
I don't recall any conversations with Historic regarding the rooftop component or any objection to it. I spoke to the city's historic preservation planner actually yesterday evening to ask if she was going to be present, and she said she was not. She did not express any opposition to the project whatsoever.
This did go to their board, correct?
It did not go to the board. It was coordinated with the city's historic preservation
internal
planner.
staff review, okay. But they did have comments about the rooftop section, Claudia? Yeah. So, I just think it's consistent, but everybody, that the top just seems to be too much of an anomaly, and I think it needs some restudy.
It sounds like there were some architectural concerns. Would the applicant be willing to accept a condition if we ask you to come back and show us some of the rework I don't think we have an issue with the special review. I don't think we have an issue with the project. It's just more design elements. It would be, would the applicant be amenable to a condition that would allow for us to see some of the revisions that Roger and Gabriel have suggested, and bring it back so we can have a final crack at it?
Well, respectfully, we would be willing to talk about different materials, like you mentioned, some of the railing materials and things like that. I think we were dealing with a lot of different issues that we had to put together to get where we are. And there also are some projects in the area that are of certain heights and things like that, that we have to clear shadows and other factors that we tried to make work. And there are also a lot of parts of the project that you see that were heavily influenced by the historic staff in the city that we had to fit into. And I think when you're dealing with a lot of different and conflicting, requirements, you do the best you can with them to make them work. So certain materials we can talk about in the building process. Obviously, our preference is to not have to come back. We've put a lot of time into it to kind of meet with the different requirements that staff has had and the different interests of different staff members within the city. So we are open to making some appearance changes to the materials we're using, but the massing, we've really had to push and pull for a long time to get and meet a lot of the different requirements without having any zoning requests for relief or anything like that. So respectfully, I would hope that the project as it stands can move forward, and that we can take under advisement some of those appearance issues. We're also trying to be true to our brand and to what the product is, which is also an important consideration for us. We worked, I think, pretty hard to make sure that the existing structure was respected, and that's a lot of what that design element is, and you'll see that the circles and the other, Art Deco elements of the original building appear in similar form on the new structure for the purposes of tying it in. There are certain things we definitely could do, and we've done, but our hope is at this point, having been at it for almost a year and a half, is to go forward.
Okay, well, it's up to you guys to make a motion how you want to do it. My position stays the same. I think it's just too major a project to approve this bottom and top the way it is now, and I think it needs restudy. Again, these are the same comments I gave you guys back a year ago, so that's still my same opinion, but I'm just one vote, and I can't make a motion. So
There were certain things, we definitely made changes. The color of the entire coloration palette of the project has changed based on those comments. A lot of the fenestrations have changed based on those comments. And there's definitely going to be a change in the look to move those mechanicals below the rooftop. That's going to change a lot of the architecture to make it work. It's never going to disappear if we're going to do that.
all right, well, I'm
gonna suggest something here. I'm gonna make a motion to approve with a revision, with a condition added. And I want you to let me know if I've hit all the points that you are concerned about. And
everybody.
Gabriel? So, granting the special review, I move that the Downtown Action Committee approve the special review for DAC case number 2222 as listed in the staff report dated June 7th, 2023. The motion is based upon a determination that the testimony presented at this hearing along with the applicable submitted constitute a preponderance of competent substantial evidence. The board hereby makes findings of fact that the special review requested satisfies all the criteria of the City of West Palm Beach Zoning and Land Development Regulations, Article 2, Section 9454B2. In addition to the granting of the approval is made conditional upon the following restrictions, stipulations, or safeguards, and that I move are necessary to ensure compliance with the purpose and intent of the zoning code and consistent with the comprehensive plan and downtown master plan of the City of West Palm Beach. 2, to have the application come back to DAC for architectural modifications that include the mechanical screening element, the vertical blank wall in the southeast corner, the rooftop railing, and the ground level facade between the existing historic hotel and the new hotel entry area. If I think I've covered everything, I'd like to maybe see these come back so we can get some of these things. These are facade changes, it's skin. We're not asking to knock down the building, we're not asking to move mechanical floors. It's just really more elements that have to be cleaned up. I appreciate all the time you've put into it. We know this is gonna get approved. It's just a matter of some minor cleanup elements, in my opinion. So with that, that's my motion.
I'll second the motion.
Just for clarification, so it's approval with, your motion is to approve with the conditions, but they're going to come back with those components for our review and approval next month? Or whenever you?
Or
can come back
whenever,
with it?
as soon as you can.
Okay. Does everybody go to that?
Yeah, I second the motion.
Oh, we got a motion, a second? Okay, all right. Then all in favor, say yes?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? I'm a no because I think we should just not approve it, but it's good. Let's go, it's approved. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, so.
Mr. Chair, sorry.
Oh,
I'll have to excuse myself to this meeting. I have another appointment.
okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time, appreciate it. All right, good deal. So we'll move on to, let's see. Code revision cases, non-administrative appeals, unfinished business, new business. We have other business. Facade articulation, non-active use screening for formal site plan review, case number 2219. And Claudio.
Thank you. So this is for the formal site plan review case number 2219. This was presented to you on April 12th, 2023, and it got approval for a special review. However, there was a condition in that approval, which will be that once the artwork is finalized, the applicant will present it to DAC before seeking City Commission approval to ensure that non-active uses are screened adequately and that the facade articulation is suitable with the artwork. So you saw this image of the actual development, and what you are seeing here in magenta is where the art is located. We have evaluated the artwork and it still complies with all the regulations of the downtown master plan. The applicant presented the artwork to the Art Life Board on May 3rd and it was approved. And it's also scheduled to go in front of City Commission on July 10 to get final approval. So I'm gonna hand it over to the applicant for them to provide us an update on the art.
Great, thank you.
Good morning, Ellie Zacharias, Danae Miskell-Backman, 14 Southeast 4th Street in Boca Raton. I will be very brief this morning. As Claudia noted, we came before you all, I believe it was about 2 months ago, for approval of the actual development. Since that time, we've been working with staff and the Art Life Board to present the actual installation of the artwork, and now we're coming back before you for a final recommendation. So this here in the middle, there's a walkway that connects two buildings. The installation will be both on the east facade and the west facade. This is actually looking from the to be newly constructed 4th Street facing east. And this is a closer up. So in front here, the street right here is actually Rosemary. This is the new 4th Street that's being created that wasn't there before, and this is the connector bridge. So this is what you will see from Rosemary looking east. And here's a better, just from looking from the top down, this is the bridge. So you'll see it here and you'll see it here as well. Now this is looking from Railroad facing west. As you can see, it's the same idea. The art concept is the same, but it's slightly different from one side to the other. The facade facing west has the trumpets, where this just has the sound ripples on the east facade. And the structure is made out of aluminum. I had to write down the size. It's 59 feet long, 20 feet tall, and 2 feet deep, but it'll depend, they create depth. So there's moving parts, and a lot of them are not flat to the surface. So the top, again, is going to be the west facade, and the bottom would be the east facade. And I think that's it. Oh, I do have the color palette, the swatch, because it's different on everyone's screen. If you guys can see that, or I could pass it around however you would like.
No, it's pretty apparent.
It's a little bright. It's a little bright.
It's very cool. And that whole screen is held off the wall a certain distance, that fastening to the building?
Yes.
Yeah, it's, okay, it's nice. Okay. Does that conclude your presentation?
That's it, yep.
It's very nice. Anyone have any questions?
Did you say moving parts, like those move?
No,
in the
they
wind?
don't move. Yes, correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Does anyone in the audience have any comments on this project? No public comment? Okay, we'll close discussion. Does anyone have any questions for anyone?
Thank you.
May I
Okay,
just
yeah.
have a quick comment that, I love the image, I love the artwork. Just please be mindful on the landscaping, the tall tree, with one or two rainy season, they're gonna be much taller than, very quickly. So then, to consider whether the existing landscape and the trees will stay, or they need to be modified to something lower height, so that in the future they won't cover up the beautiful artwork.
That's a great point. Thank you very much. We will be mindful of that.
Yeah, it's a good, very good point. Anyone else? No, it's very cool. Does anyone want to make a vote?
Thank you.
That's an easy one.
A motion?
Motion to approve?
Okay, second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thanks. Very, very nice. I guess that was it. We got through any other business to discuss before we adjourn today?
I just had a question relative to the last case and, the historic architecture and the preservation and such. And so I don't know if I missed it, but it sounded like they were relaying the comments from the city's historic preservation planner. And I was just wondering if maybe Frederique should be here next time, and just to reiterate her comments and make sure they understand that, so that when they come back, we can say, hey, everything's been hit, DAC comments, historic comments. But I didn't really catch her official review or what she said. If I can get repeated.
So this did not go to the historic board because it's not going to be designated historic. This is just an eligible historic structure. But they did meet with the historic team internally, with Frederique, to really review how they were integrating that. I can ask Frederique if she could be present whenever they're coming back with the design.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
I think all the points were valid in terms of the architectural concerns. It's a 3-story hotel that's been there for a long time, and they're plopping 12 stories on top of it. So it's going to be a challenge, and these architects are talented, and they can scan it. They just got to reskin it. That's all.
Yeah, I would just, in the abundance of caution, if whatever those comments are, if they could be summarized and sent to the applicant, like right away, to say, okay, here's all the comments, you have these, and then so it's not like wait until the next meeting. They could hopefully absorb them, integrate them, and that at that meeting should be rubber stamp, hopefully, to say, you guys have done everything that you're supposed to do based on the feedback, and, call it there. So just as a full circle, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Perfect, all right, well, we'll adjourn today's meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
day.
Thank you.